Hello everyone, Alex Soul Collector Jarzabinski here, and I'm going to give you a rundown of the BattleBards Soundboard, talking a bit about navigation, playlists, and basic features. Please keep in mind that we're still in beta. There's a lot more that we want to do with the soundboard and the entire BattleBards service. So first, what's the soundboard? What is it used for? Well, as a GM for over 20 years, I can tell you that you could have the best gaming audio ever made, but if you don't have the right tools needed to use them seamlessly in a game setting, it's really just a hassle to use. The soundboard brings all of your gaming audio as close to you as possible, letting you organize everything in whatever way makes most sense to you and allowing you to quickly and easily play what you need. Think of the soundboard as your gaming audio command and control. After you register, coming to BattleBards will take you to the Browse page, which lists all of the tracks on sale. Before we can add tracks to the soundboard, we need to purchase them, which can be done by shopping through the various albums and tracks on offer. This is done by clicking on the orange shopping cart icon next to the tracks that you're interested in. Clicking on that icon is going to take you through the purchase process. Once you buy a track, it's unlocked for you on the service and you can get started. The top panel links all of the major pages that you can go to, and we're going to click on the soundboard to get things set up. When you arrive here for the first time, your screen is going to look something like this: two empty playlists. Playlists are just what you think they are, a collection of tracks. However, you determine how you want to set up your playlists, of which you can create as many as you like with as many tracks as you like. The aim here is to give players and GMs as much latitude as possible when managing their gaming audio. The first thing that we're going to do is create a playlist. You can make any kind of playlist that you want, whether it's album specific, theme specific, or whatever makes sense to you. What I like to do is I like to make some playlists that are actually specific to the session I'm running. That way I sort of have all the audio that I expect to need in the order that I expect to have it. It's actually pretty cool. So to do that, I'm going to click on this new playlist button. I think we're on session 79. Click save, and my playlist is good to go. Now, another way to make a playlist is clicking on this page icon on the left-hand side, which basically takes you through the same steps. With a playlist ready to go, there are several ways to populate it. Maybe the quickest way is to use the left-hand slide-out menu. Clicking on the plus sign is going to show me all the tracks that I've purchased organized by audio type and album. So in this next session, I'm pretty sure my party is going to go visit a tavern. That's something that they love to do when they first get into a city. So I'm going to see if I can populate a great tavern owner greeting voiceover, of which there are a few. Now, one of the cool things about this slide out menu is the fact that you can actually listen to each piece before you populate it into a playlist. No one's going to remember every single track that they purchase. So this is kind of a neat way to vet what you have before you put it into a playlist.
You're an adventurer. I love adventurers.
I'm sure he does. So to populate this clip, you're going to notice that there are two plus buttons, one on the left and one on the right. And these correspond to the left hand and right hand playlists that are available on the soundboard. Now, since I only have one playlist, the one on the left, I'm going to use the plus button and populate a couple of these so I have some options. Now, you could also put in multiple versions of the same clip by simply clicking the plus button again. Another way to add tracks is to use the search function up top. When searching for a track, you can enter albums, artist names, track titles, and it's going to show you a list of items that match. So for this next session coming up, I'm going to have a fireball flinging BBG. So let's see if we can find a cool fireball sound effect. So search is showing that I do have one purchased. Now, just like with the slide out menu, I can get a preview of it so I know exactly what I'm adding before I add it to my playlist, but I have a pretty good idea of what it is. So let's go ahead and pop that into session 79. Now, search also shows me tracks that I don't own. I can check the store itself, and I see that there are two Fireball tracks here that I don't have. Again, as before, you could preview these so you could see what the sound effect really is. And if you just absolutely have to have it for your next session, you can buy it from right here, right in the search function. The last way of adding tracks to a playlist is from the Browse page itself. So we're going to go back to Browse. And from here, we can look at everything that we've purchased. So I'm going to go to Tracks. And instead of filtering by the store, I'm going to be filtering by my library, which is going to show me everything that I've bought. Now, knowing that my BBG is as much of a fan of acid as he is of fire, I'm going to add the Acid Blast spell sound effect to Session 79 playlist. That's it. Now, what's more useful when you're in Browse is to add entire albums to a new playlist. So to do that, we're going to go to Albums. And again, instead of filtering with the store, we're going to filter for albums I've already purchased. And knowing that my party is going to likely visit an armor smith because I damaged their armor in a big way in the last session, I can add this entire album to its own playlist. And to do that, just follow the same steps, add to playlist. We're going to keep the default playlist name, save. And now when we go to the soundboard, we're going to see that album I just added in the default slot here on the left-hand side. And I can bring up the playlist that I have been working on the right-hand side with the drop-down menu. All right, now that we have a couple of playlists, let's wrap up our conversation on basic playlist organization and layout. So first things first, you'll notice that when you bring in an album from Browse, it comes with some cool album art, which you could hide, expand, you can do whatever you want with it. You could change the name of a playlist to anything you like that makes most sense to you. And of course, you can move tracks around within a playlist by clicking and dragging this cross arrow icon. Don't forget, each playlist has an independent scroll bar, so you can move along to whatever makes most sense. And of course, you could remove a track from a playlist. So that covers some of the basics. From here on out, we're going to get into some actual soundboard functionality. Okay, let's have a little fun and actually play some tracks on the soundboard. Now, one of the things that you might have noticed is at the top of every playlist, there's a play all button. And it does just what you would expect. It goes from the top track to the bottom track of a playlist and plays them all in sequential order. You could also loop a whole playlist. This is implemented typically for those playlists that include very similar thematic tracks. For instance, having 4 or 5 forest day soundscapes that you can just have them all play in order, telling it to stop when you want it to stop. It's like a click and forget type of thing. When it comes to playing individual tracks, you have very similar controls. You have your individual track play, you have your track stop, and you have this black seek bar, which when you click anywhere on the waveform, you can say when you want the track to start playing. On the bottom right-hand corner of the waveform, you have 3 buttons. Now, this first one I probably should have started talking about earlier in the video. This is a 4th way of populating tracks within playlists. This was implemented in those cases when you have a lot of different tracks, you have a lot of different playlists, you're kind of scanning through to see what you've purchased, and then you realize, hey, you know what? This track goes really well with some other playlists that I have set up. So instead of having to go through the search feature or the left-hand side menu, you can go ahead and populate this track in other playlists right from here. You have the individual track loop, which does as you would expect. Once a track reaches the end, it starts again. And you have a reset button, which is a great segue to one of the most powerful features of the BattleBards Soundboard. Cropping is the ability to set a new start and a new stop for a track without actually having to modify the track itself. In the case here that we have for this voiceover, I'm interested in the first 9 seconds, which ends at about here, meaning I don't need this tail end. So what I can do is click and drag on that section that I'm interested in. Let's have a listen.
It's a cold night. Why spend the night alone when my girls hunger for a warm body to lie next to?
What reset does is undoes the crop. Maybe I didn't have the crop just right. Maybe I don't need it anymore. That's what reset does. But in this case, we're going to get that crop back. So why do we think cropping is so cool? It essentially allows you to multiply the number of audio assets that you have by isolating chunks or pieces of whatever you have access to, allowing you to mix them into new tracks or simply use them on their own. Here's a very quick rundown of just some of the cool things that you could do with the crop feature. So for example, the fireball spell can be cropped to sound less like a spell and more like a catapult lobbing explosive shot. Monsterscapes are a rich source of material. A quick crop into the common giant combat track gives me the sound effect of a giant swinging a club that I can use in an engagement with the party without needing to play the entire Monsterscape. If you want to get a little fancy and you don't want to create a whole mix, you can make up new stuff on the fly like this, where I take the wind up of a lightning bolt spell and the explosion of a fireball spell to make what I need for the party when it overloads an arcane generator. Cropping also means you don't have to hover over the pause button when you just want to use a piece of a longer track. The GM has enough on their plate, and having tracks stop when you need them to without input saves time. In this case, the Marsh of Madness in Day with Heavy Spirits has an awesome crescendo that I want to use to stop my narration and lead to the next scene. With it cropped, I don't have to worry about cutting the track off when it's time. Okay, we're finally getting to the greatest part of the soundboard, and that's the ability to play as many tracks as you want concurrently, one over the other, without multiple media players, browsers, or whatever. Where cropping allows you to multiply the content you have, playing tracks concurrently geometrically expands what you could do with all of it. We could use the crop we made with the voiceover track on the right-hand playlist and fit that into an appropriate backdrop on the left to put together a whole scene. So this is what it would sound like.
It's a cold night. Why spend the night alone when my girls hunger for a warm body to lie next to?
Or maybe you want to use some of the great demon sounds found in the tail end of the demon summoning track to use it as foreshadowing for a confrontation while the party is exploring a dungeon. Let's go even further. Let's create our own soundscape of a ruined, haunted castle sinking beneath a bog where the party meets with its shady contact and teleport them away to his hideout.
Salutations, mighty slayer. I trust you were not followed? Splendid. Through here, quickly.
Okay, that last one was a bit of a stretch, but it gives you an idea of what this soundboard can do and the impact it could have in your games, all without getting bogged down managing files, sound packs, or browsers. Whether you need a disintegrate spell to rattle your players or an entire vivid scene with layered tracks, the BattleBards Soundboard makes you the conductor of your own gaming orchestra, giving you the freedom and precision to make any scene an immersive experience. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all at the gaming table.